Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, welcome to the program. It is Thursday, July 26th, and God, I can't believe August is right around the corner. Good heavens. Normally Tom Sokolowski is with us on Thursdays, but he's out, I don't know. What's he doing? He's in New York again, I suspect. So Tom will be joining us again in 1 week's time. Well, I don't know exactly where to jump in here. There's a number of things that, just in reading the paper today, got my goat. But that's always so unpleasant, isn't it? I don't know. Everything I look. Oh, here's some good news. Here's some good news. I mentioned, I think, at the end of the show yesterday that I was heading out to the ball game. Jess went as well. We went to the Pirate game. It was a 12:30 start, and considering it was a midweek game, during the day, I noted that there were a ton of people and the place looked pretty packed. And the fact is on the front page of the paper today, I am told that was a record-setting crowd. It was the highest attendance at a 12:30 start ever. Or to be absolutely correct, a 12:35 start ever. And there were some, I don't have it here because I ripped this thing out and didn't take the whole thing, but there were like 33,000 people there. And when you're part of the crowd that's going to the game and you're walking across the Clemente Bridge, which a whole hunk of people do, and by the way, I suspect that's faster than taking the underground thingamajiggy. Do they still call that? Is that the T, or is that the North Shore Connector? Because you got to wait for that. Whereas if you're just relying on your own foot power, you just walk across the bridge and you're right there. I mean, your own feet drop you at the direct front of the stadium. And why are people averse to walking? There are a whole heck of a lot of people that clearly aren't, because, as I said, you're in a great throng when you're walking to a Pirate game now. And, this brings up another sort of peeve of mine, the slowness with which most people walk. I mean, the average speed that given their druthers, how they would walk. How does a person walk? How fast? All I know is most people do not walk as fast as I do, and I don't think I'm a fast walker. I mean, you're walking on the sidewalk, and all you're doing is weaving in and out of people who are just, you think, how can you live your life walking this slowly? And it's very hard for me. It's sort of like I get into the same state of mind I do when I'm driving my car and my Type A personality comes out. But there was really no way to get around the people in front of me. It was that much of a crowd. So I found myself forced to walk at the same pace that this sea of humanity was walking. And it's incredibly slow. And on sidewalks, people walk so slowly. When I hear the doctors say if you just manage to walk, I don't know what it is, 20 minutes a day, and it doesn't even matter how fast they say that's great for your heart. How can that be great for your heart? To not even get your heart pumping to walk at that rate. Geez. Anyway, I was just thinking this is another reason that Americans are probably fat. Even when we do supposedly move, we move incredibly slowly. And drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. So anyway, we go to the game, and Jess and I met up there because she actually still had to work. But the front page of the paper says today that the merchants, the retailers, the restaurants and convenience stores that are located on the walk to PNC Park, and I'm not even talking North Shore. I'm talking about, I don't know, what is that street that the Byam's on? I'm talking about that street that feeds you into the Roberto Clemente Bridge, which is how you walk across. That's 6th Street. Yeah. And the restaurants there, the convenience stores, the vendors that are setting up, they're reporting 20, 30, 40, 50% increase in their sales. So, like Penn State, I guess, in a way, you see how a community can get addicted to a winning sports team, because winning sports teams bring with them all kinds of corollary opportunities for money to be made. All those restaurants, all those vendors, not all those vendors, but some of the vendors have been there for years, but they weren't making much because the crowds weren't there and the excitement wasn't there. If you're not excited about a team, you're not going to buy the T-shirt. You're not going to buy the whatever else they're selling, every little trinket and a bunch of kitsch. And the fact is that in the last 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week, over 90,000 people were in that ballpark. 94,000, in fact. 94,000 people. They're buying stuff. Mm-hmm. I bought a thing of water going in from a vendor who was, selling stuff left and right. And the first thing I bought when I walked out of the stadium yesterday was from another vendor right outside the stadium, was another bottle of water, because sitting for 3 hours in, unrelenting sun is a bit of a chore. And that's the other thing. It was hot and I would say uncomfortable. And nobody leaves. Everybody just sits there sweating and rooting on the team. So you can see that a winning team and a winning baseball team, like the Pirates are now, just lifts so many others who make their living off of the crowds that do or don't come. And they're finally coming again. I got myself some lunch at a restaurant on 6th that I otherwise would never have been at yesterday. So you see how the money comes. There are stores there that normally are not open after games. They would close. They're staying open now because it actually makes sense. And you can take that two ways. People are spending their money. So that's the good news that I have to report. It's pretty wonderful to see Pittsburgh just so filled with people. The traffic on the way out is another story, which Jess was telling me her brother was stuck in the Rivers Casino parking lot for hours trying to get out. That'll take the joy of the experience of a pirate win away in short order. Wow. Again, I recommend to people, forget about driving your car to the North Shore. It's unnecessary. You can walk. It's not that far. It's a reasonable walk. And because you'll be walking among a crowd, amidst a crowd of Americans, you'll be walking really slow. Actually, the walk rate for Americans varies from city to city. There's little doubt about that. Where do you think the fastest walkers are? New York, right, without a doubt. New York. And people walk in New York, and they walk with some purpose. Doesn't mean you have to break a sweat. You're just walking with purpose. I would say that what people do here is more akin to like strolling. It's what I would think of as strolling, which is la da 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 da. But it's not the kind of pace one would have if one had a destination, it would seem. I don't know, but those are the mumblings of a type A personality. No, there were 34,000 people there yesterday. That's pretty danged amazing, really. So who was I talking to last night? Oh, I was. About how sometimes when I'm in a crowd, I will look around, and this is the thought of a woman who never gave birth to a child. Women who have never given birth to a child, just as I don't know if men are generally empathetic enough to even think of it, but if you're someone who's never given birth, I think there's close to a fear of it. Would you agree with that, Jess? No? Jess is looking at me like I'm not afraid of it. No, not really. Not fear of the obvious pain of labor and all of that, of going through that. Yeah. Kind of.
But the epidural is what scares me.
Oh, the epidural is what scares you. You get the epidural so you don't feel the pain.
What if it paralyzes?
Oh, for God's sake. Then just do it the old-fashioned way and suck it up. Epidural. What if it paralyzes you? Oh, God almighty. Jesus. No, but sometimes when I look at crowds, I think of the fact, and I mean, this seems so, you'll realize what an absurd head I have. I think for every person here, a woman endured labor and childbirth. And then you think of for every human on this earth, a woman endured. And then it makes me think of how women are historically treated, how women are considered the weaker sex. That's so funny. It's so funny. Who came up with that determination? The weaker sex. There's not a person alive on this earth that didn't come from the body of a woman. And it ain't easy. Who ever thought that that would make women the weaker sex? Quite clearly, women are not the weaker sex. The only reason that moniker got stuck is because men created it, and men decided that the way you measure weakness is brawn, is musculature. But of course, there's many kinds of strength. And I bet that a lot of what feeds, I mean, I try to think about these things. What feeds this sort of anti-female thing that it just exists through all cultures, religions? And I think it's the fear of the magic and power of women, of life-giving women. Hello?
Well, hello, Lynn. This
Hi.
is Michael from Palm Springs.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, you just reminded me of something that my mom always used to say. And it was, women will always be superior to men so long as they allow men to believe that they are superior to women.
There you go. I think
That women, by allowing men to believe that they are better, indeed are the power behind the man.
exactly right. I mean, the thing is that is true. Women are so strong that they tolerate this nonsense of being the weaker sex. We don't, yeah, okay, fine, I'm the weaker sex.
Yeah, and it, by the same token, are men also so stupid to not realize that they're being placated?
Some.
Oh, thanks.
Some. I think women are so clearly in terms of just because it's only in brawn that men come out ahead. Then they do. And they do. But the more humanity exists on this earth, which might not be a lot longer, brawn counts for less and less. And in our current reality, brawn counts for nothing. Really nothing. Because it used to be that you needed a guy, right? Because you had, he's the strong one and he could safeguard
Instill
you.
order, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. And now, I'm sorry, but the gun lovers will back me up on this. A 4 foot 1 inch child with a loaded gun in his hand is in fact stronger than any man. You don't need the musculature anymore. It's not where the jobs are. It's not, men had to be strong to work. You don't need that kind of strength to work anymore. It's all brain power now. So I think there's a real crisis for men in the world right now. The longer we're here.
Which is probably why men are starting to get a little bit more angry, or at least
no, they're plenty
visibly
angry.
more so.
Oh, no, they're totally angry. I mean, that's what feeds the whole right-wing talk phenomenon. It's angry white men.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Exactly.
And they're angry
I just
because...
had an argument with a friend of mine who I thought was liberal, but were going on and on about Obama and how wrong it is to do that, and that Mexicans are taking my job and blacks are moving in here. And I'm like, whoa, what has happened to you?
Well, I mean, you can imagine if you were a white male, and you are,
which I am.
If you're a white male, you have throughout our history certainly always been just assumed to be the superior. Your status was the highest, a white male, and a white heterosexual male, I must say. However, now that just doesn't, they're looking around and there's a black guy in the White House. There's, brown people, the majority in states and cities, and the demographers tell us it's just another decade or two till whites are a minority. And I guess a lot of people are so threatened by this loss of position. I think there's little doubt. But as for men always fearing women's power, I think that goes back to way beyond, it goes back to the cavemen. Primal,
instinctual.
Right. Women have had to be kept down forever. And you look at a lot of the religions that cover women up. Women have to be covered because of their power. Because if they're left, with all of their power shown, their beauty, they distract men. They make men behave insanely. Women, without even trying, have such power that by virtue of their being weaker muscularly, I think have found themselves in a submissive position in a lot of cultures. But that ain't going to hold. It ain't going to hold. It can't hold. It's not. It makes no sense at all.
Paradigms have shifted throughout history. They are going to continue to, and we're just in a state now where paradigms are shifting. More of them are shifting more rapidly than possibly we've noticed before.
Oh, no, than possibly has ever happened. And again, it's just because we are, despite the way people walk in Pittsburgh, we are moving faster than we ever have before. And change happens faster. I mean, huge change, roiling change. And now it's driven by technology.
Technology is advancing everything. I mean,
that's right.
Alvin Toffler hit it on the head back in the 70s.
Right, and we're just hanging on for dear life.
We certainly are. And to the walking, you segued to that. I have always been a rapid walker. I mean, I grew up in a little small town in West Virginia, Huntington, then moved to New York, where I learned to Zoom. And now, I mean, everybody is like, slow down, why are you running? And it's like, I'm not running, I'm walking at a normal pace. You want to see me actually be motivated to go somewhere?
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Well,
it is.
Yeah. Well, you keep walking fast, it's better for you.
Exactly. That's why I do it so early in the morning here, because I can't do it during the day.
Pick up the pace, as they say.
It's too hot.
I bet. All right. Well, stay
All right.
cool.
Well, thank you.
Always good to hear from you.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, Palm Springs. I didn't bother to ask him this time what the temperature was going to be. What was it last time we talked to him? It was like 112 or yeah, it was. So St. Louis set a record yesterday. It was 108, I think. It's also, they set a record. It's been 7 or 8 days over 100. And again, that's why my sister goes to Florida in August to cool off. Wow. Jeez. Okay, let's get a break in here. Be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Laser Hair and Skin Center has been providing professional, affordable services for over 10 years. Now they're proud to exclusively offer RegenLite acne treatment. RegenLite is an FDA-approved, non-invasive drug, chemical, and pain-free treatment of all grades of acne. With RegenLite, you will experience a 50% improvement in less than 2 weeks, with lasting improvement for up to 12 weeks. Call the Laser Hair and Skin Center today at 412-373-1700 and receive $100 off your first session. Or go to mylaserhair.com for more information and to see their full line of services. The Laser Hair and Skin Center.
Go to bergbargains.com for half-off tickets to The Legend of Zelda, Symphony of the Goddesses at Heinz Hall this Friday. bergbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. bergbargains.com. Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
I'll tell you a story that just There are sometimes stories you just can't bear to look at because of the pain and the horror and the loss. These mass shootings are one. But here in Pittsburgh, just yesterday morning, a man who had taken up bicycling as a way to get exercise, as a way to get in shape, and who biked early in the morning before, the traffic started, before I guess he had to go to work or whatever. He took a long, long bike ride. And that's what he was doing yesterday morning when some SOB hit him and killed him and kept on going. And I cannot tell you how much I want the cops to find this person. People like that, granted, it could happen to any of us that you end up hitting someone with your car. That can happen, one moment of inattention. But if your instinct after harming somebody is to run, then it's despicable. If your instinct is not to help, but instead to help yourself, it's unbelievable. Who knows if this man who has children and a mother and family who are just so broken up about it. He's going on his morning ride. He had a helmet on. He was doing everything right. And some SOB kills him. I just can't stand it. Can't stand it. They damn well better find this guy. Oh, another story that's making me crazy. There are a lot of things. It's just making me nuts. We talked yesterday with Chris Potter about it. The voter ID law. The more you hear about it, the more you read about it, the more tuned in you get, the more outrageous it is. And the more shameless it is. This is a law that was passed to solve a problem that doesn't exist. This is a law that was passed to tilt the field. This was a law that was passed to stymie the right of all Americans, almost all Americans, to vote. Now, in the past, when these efforts occurred, poll taxes and all kinds of other things that were used to keep black folks from voting, the courts came in and they stopped it. Well, yesterday in Harrisburg and continuing today in Harrisburg, there is an effort on the part of the ACLU and others to, again, appeal to the judiciary to stop this. Now, the only way it can happen is to be declared unconstitutional. And I would imagine it can be unconstitutional if it can be proven that it does put up an unnecessary and onerous block to a person's right to vote. I said block because I just looked at this person's What was the word I was really looking for? Impediment. I was looking for a larger word, impediment. And then I said block, which might have struck some ears as not the right word, because it sure struck mine. But the reason is I had just a second ago looked down and seen the word block. In fact, it was a name block, specifically one Joyce Block. This is a woman who is in her 80s, I believe. She has voted in every election since 1944. but it could well be that she ain't going to be able to vote. With this new law in effect, she's a Pennsylvanian, Ms. Block will be blocked by the Republicans from voting. Now, Republicans, who of course all own cars apparently and drive and have driver's license, think everybody has an ID, picture ID, which again shows how out of touch they are. Joyce Block never drove in her life. She consequently does not have a driver's license. So she proactively, she's 89, she proactively attempted to get a non-driver photo ID from her nearest PennDOT office, which she was able to get to. And PennDOT said, sorry, you don't pass muster. Because you see, this birth certificate you're trying to palm off on us, this has a different name on it. And she said, well, yeah. Well, I don't know if she said that. That's what she would have said if she was in Wisconsin. Well, yeah, but that's because I've since married. Well, I'm sorry, the birth certificate name and the Social Security name does not match your married name, which is on your voter registration, and we need some matches. So, she had to prove that she was this married woman. I don't know what her maiden name was. That her name was Block because she married a guy named Block. For some reason, she can't find a marriage certificate. She does have one. However, it's the certificate issued by her religion. It's called a ketubah. She's Jewish. It's the Jewish contract, essentially, of marriage. And so she goes back. And she comes back with her ketubah. The Department of Motor Vehicles looks at the ketubah and says, what the hell is this? And refused to accept it as proof that she had married. So she ended up calling her state senator. Her state senator ended up getting her some kind of temper. Now, here's the thing. For any voter to have to go to those lengths to vote is ludicrous. It's onerous. And if that is constitutional in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, then we need to do something about the Constitution. There's a reason that the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice, is looking at this law and a lot of others. Its intent is clear. It is to deprive a whole bunch of people from the ability to vote. It's mind-blowing to me. There's a bunch of letters to the editor in the Post-Gazette today from people saying the same thing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And shame on anyone who voted for this. It was disingenuous. Those of you who voted for it, you're dishonest in your reasons for voting for it. You have created misinformation that a lot of people have bought, that there is huge amounts of voter fraud, and that this was a necessary bill. The fact of the matter is, there's no voter fraud! And the Commonwealth has stipulated it. No, we are not aware of any instance. But yet they had to pass this. And how much taxpayer dollars are now going in to having campaigns to tell people how they can get their things? I mean, think of the total waste of money, effort, time, not to mention the anxiety that this is causing. A lot of older people who have voted always, who showed up at the same polling place for 50 plus years, who are known by the very person who's checking them in, are now not going to be able to vote? Come on. A solution in search of a problem. It's a absolutely cynical, shameless attempt on the part of Republicans throughout the country, in legislatures all over the country, to deprive Americans of their most precious right. Despicable. Michael writes back from Palm Springs. It is currently 79 with a high expected of 103. That's not bad. Relative humidity, he says high at 20%. That ain't high around here. You should see it out here. It's soup out here today. And he says that's a normal day. Margaret, meanwhile, writes that because in honor of this being Thursday, when normally Tom is here, that I should speak French today. Because Tom always manages to throw in at least one or two French words. Margaret, I swear, I'll find one that will seamlessly come to mind in the course of some meandering thought or two that I possess. But at the moment, it ain't coming. I mean, I did take a year or two of French. Of course, I don't speak it like a good American. I took a foreign language and actively resisted any ability to learn how to speak it. As a matter of fact, I've taken 3 foreign languages and can't speak any of them. It's just classic. And in our defense, I want to say that if we lived in Europe, where the countries are smaller and where you cross borders and where, 10 miles away, there's a whole other country where they're speaking another language. And, in 2 hours that away, there's another country where they're speaking another language. But believe me, you grow up in an entirely different kind of situation and you pick up all kinds of languages. It's amazing when you go to Europe, always to realize how many languages sometimes people speak. And since we now know that English has become triumphant, the fact of the matter is they all speak English. So, we don't have to learn how to speak anything else. I want to read you some names now, and I'm going to do it because they're piling up again. And I want to just say this. It used to be when I would see one of these listings of our soldiers who have died in the war we're fighting now. How many days can you go living your life without ever even thinking for 1 second that we are a nation at war? I know. You can go months. You could go years. Ain't nobody going to trouble your pretty little head. We think, when I think of a nation at war, you like to think of a nation that's sort of all geared up, all fighting the same battle, like we think of as, World War II. Well, no, that's not the way we do war now. Sorry. We fight them. We don't fight them, of course not. We, us, I don't know. Some 1/10 of 1% of the country fights them. And the rest of us go about our business. And normally when I would come upon these listings of our soldiers who have died most recently, I would have a sense of how they had died because there would have been reports of some horrific fight somewhere or an explosion or whatever, because we actually bothered to report on the war. Guess what? We're not doing that anymore. So I realize that when I look at, and there's been a slew of names recently, I'm not quite sure what happened. What was the uptick? What happened? Do you remember hearing anything, seeing anything? No. We're a nation at war. This is the way we do the war. We do nothing. We pay no attention. We do nothing. We know nothing. Even though people wearing our uniform, carrying our flag, are dying daily. And supposedly we don't like this war, but we're not in the streets about that. We do nothing. And I just want to say, I want to use a word that I used just a moment ago for my Republican neighbors. It's despicable. And it says something about us and what we've become. So anyway, this is why I do take the time. I'm going to read the names of Americans, young Americans, who aren't here anymore. They're dead. They're dead. Almost all of them in their 20s. Young people. And they're dead, and they went to supposedly safeguard us, and we don't care. Oh, we love throwing parades and waving the flag and acting patriotic and standing up and applauding when they trot out, one of our heroes at a ball game or something. But this is all disingenuous crap because we pay no attention. We pay no attention. The Department of Defense has now identified 2,039 Americans who have died as a part of the Afghan war. Richard Berry, 22, Staff Sergeant Army, Scottsdale, Arizona. Michael Brodsky, 33, Petty Officer, 2nd Class Navy, Tamarack, Florida. Julian Colvin, 21, Private, Army, Birmingham, Alabama. Brandon Pepper, 31, Staff Sergeant Army, York, Pennsylvania. Eric Williams, 27, Sergeant Army, Murrieta, California. Cody Moosman, 24, Private Army, Preston, Idaho. Darian Hicks, 21, Specialist Army, Raleigh, North Carolina. Jeffrey Rice, 24, Private Army, Troy, Ohio. Joshua Ashley, 23, Corporal Marines, Rancho Cucamonga, California. Crystal Fitz, 26, Specialist Army, Houston, Texas. Jose Reyes, 24, Sergeant Army, San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico. Daniel Rodriguez, 28, Sergeant Army, Baltimore. Sergio Perez, Sergio Jr., 21, Specialist Army, Crown Point, Indiana. Nicholas Taylor, 20, Specialist Army, Bern, Indiana. Carl Hammer, 24, Staff Sergeant Army, Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Eric May, 26, Sergeant Army, Independence, Kansas. Michael Ristow, 25, Sergeant Army, Rockford, Illinois. Trevor Adkins, 21, Private, Army, Spring Lake, North Carolina. Erica Alexson, 21, Specialist, Army, Eatonton, Georgia. Alejandro Pardo, 21, Private, Army, Porterville, California. Ricardo Saija, probably, Staff Sergeant, 31, Staff Sergeant, Army, Tampa, Florida. Cameron Stambaugh, 20, Private, Army, Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. Clarence Williams III, 23, Specialist, Army, Brooksville, Florida. Sterling Wyatt, 21, Specialist, Army, Columbia, Missouri. Raul Guerra, 37, Staff Sergeant, Army, Union City, New Jersey. Bruce McFarland, 46, Captain, Army, Oviedo, Florida. Matthew Leach, 29, Staff Sergeant, Army, Ferndale, Michigan. Robert Massarelli, 32, Staff Sergeant, Army, Hamilton, Ohio. Stephen Prasnicki, 24, First Lieutenant, Army, Lexington, Virginia. James Skalberg, Jr., 25, Sergeant, Army, Cullman, Alabama. Michael Strakota, 28, Sergeant, Army, Whitehall, Arkansas. Neil Codicers, 23, Lance Corporal, Marines, Arlington, Virginia. Hunter Hogan, 21, Lance Corporal, Marines, Norman, Indiana. Eugene Mills III, 21, Lance Corporal, Marines, Laurel, Maryland. Jose Rodriguez, 22, Sergeant, Army, Gustine, California. Stephen P. Stevens II, 23, Private, Marines, Tallahassee. Paul Volke, 36, Major, Army, Monroe, New York. John Meader II, 36, Specialist, Army, Columbia, South Carolina. Ryan Rowell, 30, First Lieutenant, Army, Lexington, South Carolina. Matthew Thomas, 30, Sergeant, First Class, Army, Travelers Rest, South Carolina.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper is now available on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com to read this week's digital issue or search for restaurants, bars, concerts, events, and movies on any portable device. Plus blogs, Lynn Cullen, and Best of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Hey, Billy, want to go to the state fair?
Yeah!
Well, you can't.
Huh?
Well, you see, Billy, when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it. But now your parents are becoming energy efficient. They could save hundreds of dollars a year and take you to the fair next year.
I want to go now.
I know you do. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, this one of the owners, I guess this is the granddaughter of the founder of Chik-fil-A, has told a Christian news organization, because Chik-fil-A, this pops up. I don't know why all of a sudden it comes up and then it drops back down, but the fact that Chik-fil-A actively works against gay rights pops up now and then, and heaven knows there aren't many gays you would find ever at a Chik-fil-A as a result, or people who support civil rights at a Chik-fil-A. But the family and Chick-fil-A are standing fast, and they have their supporters. This comes from the New York Times today. Rick Santorum, former Republican presidential candidate, has now jumped in. He rallied his 200,000 Twitter followers yesterday with this little tweet. With two of my boys enjoying chicken strips and an awesome peach shake at Chick-fil-A. See you here next Wednesday. So, homophobes are flocking to Chick-fil-A, and other folks are flocking elsewhere. But here's a quote. And this was last month by Dan Cathy, who is a member of the family that owns it. He told a Christian news organization that Chick-fil-A supported, quote, the biblical definition of the family unit. And when I read that, I thought, what? You mean you support polygamy? I don't know about you, but when I have read Bible stories, especially, I mean, the ones I know, because I'm not Christian, the ones I know from the supposed Old Testament, to us it's the only one. Abraham, he had the patriarch. Christianity is an Abrahamic religion, as is Islam. Polygamy. It was polygamy. So, I mean, the absurdity of glomming onto one little thing that supports you. The fact of the matter is, if Chick-fil-A supports the biblical definition of the family unit, well, then I would say that Chick-fil-A is really out there. Man, they support polygamy. And here's Rick Santorum talking them up. Shocking, isn't it? The biblical definition. Is there somewhere in the Bible where it says a family unit is? Is there a definition in the Bible, a family unit? I don't think so. Families came in all kinds of... I mean, look at Jesus' own family. There was a weird one. Huh? What's going on there? That wasn't your normal family. Kind of bizarre family unit that was. With a child and a virgin and Joseph, who's thinking, what good am I here and what is it I'm supposed to be doing? I never understood it. I'm sorry, but really. Here's an unsettling little piece that was front page in the local paper today, that the state of Pennsylvania has put out a list of all the failing schools where kids are simply not learning. And 53 are in Allegheny County alone. A number of those are in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And if you look at where the others are, well, they're in poor communities. They're in Wilkinsburg. They're in McKeesport. Right? So, the state puts out this thing. Look at all these schools that are failing your kids. And this is the same state that has consistently in the last years pulled funding from these schools so that these schools have had to lay off, as the Pittsburgh Public Schools just did the other day, right? Yesterday. Hundreds of teachers have scrapped whole programs. If you had failing schools, would you not go out of your way to prop them up? Here's what Republicans do. You have failing public schools, which is exactly what they want. And they'll keep squeezing those failing schools. They'll keep preventing any way. Schools that run on what? Property taxes in cities where nobody owns anything of any value, so there is nothing being brought in, and that's how you fund the public schools, then you point at them and say, you're failing. Then you say, our reaction to that is, we are going to give money to people who pull their kids out of these schools and put them in private schools. We will not use tax dollars to help lift the public schools. We will use tax dollars to shift students to private schools, money-making schools. And we will continue apace with our policies designed to further cripple the public schools. And then we'll point at them again and say, look at that. Why, they're useless. Why, the government can't do anything, can't even run a school. It's unbelievable. And again, shameless, cynical, disingenuous. Creating the very problem you then decry. Because what you really want to do is a massive transfer of taxpayer dollars to the private sector. And they do it over and over and over again. Okay. To end on some humor, thank God. And this also is from our gentleman caller in toasty Palm Springs. He said, when I phoned in once and called Sean Hannity a manatee, I had laughed and said I never heard that before. And he said it was written by John Cleese, who's such a wondrously funny guy. That's John Cleese of Monty Python fame. And here it goes. Ode to Sean Hannity. Aping urbanity, oozing with vanity, plump as a manatee, faking humanity, journalistic calamity, intellectual inanity, Fox noise insanity. You are a profanity, Hannity. Good, huh? That's good. That's very, very good. We might need to put that up on our Facebook page. I'll do it one more time, and then I will say adieu. There, I did it! I did it! Is that French?
That is.
Woo! There you go. I did it. Ode to Sean Hannity. Aping urbanity, oozing with vanity, plump as a manatee. Faking humanity, journalistic calamity, intellectual inanity, Fox News insanity, you're a profanity, Hannity. Ta-da! That's it. Stay cool, stay dry, and I think that will be all my admonitions to you today. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.